Cool.
I may have a question or two for Sebastian.
Ready? Ready?
Of course.
Cool. So we're here with Seb. We're going to talk about tech, your speciality for FS 2024. Just very briefly, as a little overview, what were the biggest changes that you've implemented with 2024?
There's so many. I mean, the biggest one which is very impactful, I think, is the streaming and the way that now you have basically we moved more data, even more data to the cloud. It was already almost 3 petabytes, but now we try to really move as much as we can. The goal was not was really to have the user not having hundreds of gigs on his drive, not to wait every time there's an update for hours, and make it very easy, and to update and everything. That was a big change. You have I think the amount of detail, that's something where we had to do a lot of work, because you can't just 4,000 times X anything and say, hey, it's gonna run fine. So we had to do a lot of work on architecture and performance to get all that detail in. We did you can see here on the image, the 3D trees. That's so much more detail than it used to be, 2D, right?
Yeah.
So there's so much more stuff, and we have rocks now and animals. It's the amount of stuff going on, it just got multiplied, and so that's and for the user, I think it's a rich world. In 2020, it was so cool to go around the world. Everything was there, and from up there, it looked super realistic. And then it was still very interesting to explore. And now we try to really make it so that even down there, it looks good, and you want to re-explore again, right? When you use a helicopter or get down there or land with a cub, or that's in even airports with an airliner, like the ground. It's so or the taxi.
Yeah,
there's not just. I mean, it looks like used because you can see where the wheels went.
Yeah.
Now on the taxiways and stuff. So there's many other changes, but.
I think so. From trying it earlier, one of the coolest things that me and a few other people spoke about was we landed on a beach and how the sand started to kind of almost move with it, and you landed in a grass strip as well, and then all the grass kind of went around the tires and stuff. I mean, how do you balance all of that with the performance aspect as well, and still make sure that the sim runs nice and smoothly for people?
So we added a lot of new technologies that all use a little bit of performance, but we were really able to optimize a lot of stuff. So there's so many things many technologies are new, but we also optimized past technology. For example, the CFD, on which we developed initially for the helicopters, but then every aircraft took advantage of it. It was costing a little bit on the CPU, and so we made that multi-thread jobs. It uses if you have 20 cores, it's gonna use 20. If you have 30 cores, it's gonna use 30. So that costs a lot less.
Yeah.
And basically by optimizing technologies, we were able to get a little bit more room and to bring in new stuff, and increase the level of detail and amount of stuff going on.
Awesome. So you mentioned about the streaming stuff, so I've got a couple of questions just surrounding all of that. So firstly, we saw this really cool graph, or a table earlier about how everything is now basically going to go into the rolling cache, and then once it's there, it's kind of on your storage system. How does that work for third-party add-ons and stuff? Is that still going to be all streamed down from the cloud, or is it going to download to your hard drive in a community?
So there's two ways. Basically, either it goes into the community folder, but then it's it used to be on your hard drive. But that's maybe interesting if you want to customize stuff, or if you want to do your own. A lot of people take an add-on and they improve it, and if you're a creator, you're gonna work in the community folder. But if all you want is download a new wall update or a new plane or something, then it's gonna just. The moment you get it in the marketplace, nothing is gonna happen. Nothing's gonna get downloaded. Only once you actually see it on the screen,
right.
That's when the stuff is gonna come, right? And so there's no waste of hard drive or bandwidth or internet or anything. And so, but no, we kept the community folder. You can still move stuff in there, and that's all still working.
Perfect. And then just on the streaming, so everything being streamed. seem to like make the things load really quickly in terms of like the sim and stuff, but just from our experience today, some things were a bit slow to load just because of obviously we're in a different environment to maybe like a home user. Oh, sorry. So, and another like concern people have is like when Xbox Live Services go down, the sim kind of doesn't really like you and you can't really go into 2020. Are you doing anything to circumvent that so people...
Yeah, that's a big focus right now. So we still have a lot of optimizations to go. For example, there's a compression we use right now, which is a bit slow, and was like, I think it's a 40-year-old algorithm, and it's a bit slow to decompress. It's very efficient, but and so now today there's new technologies which is, I think they're 20 times faster. So we're improving all these technologies, and to improve the speed at which we stream, there's also priorities right now, which we don't manage very well. So for example, when you load into the world map, sometimes we will download the higher detail before the lower, and so we're improving these things so that you, ideally you get only the LOD you need to see, and you get it first, right? We download stuff you don't see yet later, and that's things we improve, and thanks to that, eventually the amount of bandwidth we need is actually less. So there's improvements here, but it's a big effort, and downtime and retries, and also elegantly handling if some server is down so that you know what's going on, how long it's going to take, and obviously we're trying to have that never happen, but if it happens, that at least you get all the information you need. I mean, 2020, if the servers were down, it was like sometimes reverting to like some offline thing, but it wasn't always very great, but it's very rare, right, when it happens. The most important thing is that you know why it's happening, because very often it can be local, right? It can be my router goes down every now and then, and there's always something, right, or a password or something, and so that you know what's going on and you can fix it if it's on your side, or at least you know. I mean, usually on the MSFS support, it's taken care of very quickly, so you know what's going on.
Cool. So one of the biggest changes we saw from the new technology was the new lighting system.
Yes.
Excuse me. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And obviously ray tracing as well is another big change that we've seen with FS24.
Yeah, on the lighting side, it's really important for the atmosphere. The light intensities much more realistic now, and so even in the tool sets, right? When you create a light, you now have the real world like lumen and stuff. You can instead of just like whatever 20 or so, no, you now have real values. So you can look them up on the internet. How much is supposed to this lamp or a candle, or which and that's very important, because in real world, like in this room, I don't know if you have a light meter or something, it's gonna be 10,000 times less than outside, right? And so night, and I have at my house I have something which I think it's the Lux or something, but on day when it's in the middle of the sun, it goes up to 50,000, and at night it's 0.003 or something, and so the range is so important. That's all now simulated, which makes the reflections, especially when your plane is all clean and a mirror, it doesn't really affect it. But when you get dirty, right? Planes now, when you land in there, they get dirty, dusty. That's where even on a dusty surface, the sun is still gonna reflect, right? Yeah. And that's something where you need this accuracy in lighting. Same thing for the atmosphere, right? We now have the Earth is like round. When the sun sets, the atmosphere is not like a line; it's thick. So the clouds, which are the top, they get the sun from space, right? They don't get any atmosphere. But the clouds which are at the bottom, the light actually goes through that layer of atmosphere, which can be pollution or humidity. And so when the sun sets, the cirrus will most likely always be white, right? They will stay white very long, while the clouds which are down here are going to be in the shadow or orange. That's all now simulated accurately, because we actually trace every ray light from the cloud from the atmosphere to the sun, which in 2020 it was all one block, and there was also this bug on the horizon line and all that. The system is completely new now.
Awesome. Okay. I'm going to hand you over to Sergio. I'm sure he's got a bunch of questions.
I have 3 days of questions to ask you, Sebastian.
No problem. I love your questions. Happy.
I need an interview, post-interview. Honestly, I have so many things to ask you that I'm going to have to choose.
Just go ahead.
It's going to be painful because I have to choose. I want to pick on something that Callum asked about, and you mentioned, which is the fact that add-ons can be in the community folder, but they can also not be in the community folder in the sense that they are streamed. Where do those? I'm going to ask you two questions in one. So where do those add-ons go to? And for example, if I purchase an aircraft from a developer that, the aircraft goes into the rolling cache, how can I do a livery for that aircraft, considering that the aircraft is not in the community folder? Does it make sense?
I understand the question. I don't know what to answer because I don't think I know the answer right now. I think it works like before, which means that if you have a community folder, it can override the aircraft. I don't know how that works now, so I need to ask.
Because right now we can tell that a certain folder, the content of a certain folder, it's related to the main aircraft.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, just today, right, on the show floor, I opened it. There's still packages and stuff, so I need to ask to understand exactly how that works. I think what we try to do is so that people can still customize stuff, and so there's a way I can. It's probably going to be all that is going to be in the SDK documentation for people to figure out how do we change delivery, how do we do this and this, and as during the presentation, all the aircraft we do, all the packages, the glass cockpits, they're all meant to be reused. If someone wants to use it on their aircraft, they can. So that's all available. Where it is on the disk, that I need to ask. I don't know.
Okay. My question was more,
it should be possible. It should be possible.
Okay.
It should be possible.
Cool.
It's probably not going to be the same place than before. I don't think it's in the rolling cache, but I think there's another system for that.
Okay. We saw the H125 made by Asobo.
Yes.
Which means is it made by Sebastian? Was it you? And my question has to do with the fact that you were the one behind the Cabri G2, and that was made with a purpose, which was for you to develop the systems for helicopters and develop the template for the piston helicopters. When I didn't know that the H125 was made by Asobo. When I learned today, I was curious. Was it a way for you to develop the turbine template?
So actually, the history of the Cabri is I started it. So I flew the Cabri twice in real life. I went to a flight school, I took lessons, and we went with a team. So the first lessons I took, we went. So we have one of our team members who does a lot of flight models. He's actually instructor on airplanes, and he went with me to the flight school where we took the helicopter lessons. So I did the first iteration on the Cabri. I returned to the Flame Flight School a few months later. They reviewed the Cabri and we improved it. And then the third time we returned, they reviewed it again. No, I went 3 times flying. And then I dropped it. But this guy, he returned again, because now we have a procedure, right? We have instruments. We measure accelerations. We measure the airflow, airspeed. So he returned several times to the Cabri, and the Cabri should be better, and they improved it. So I think it's not going to be huge differences, but for example, something on the CFD, we measure sometimes with an instrument, and it says, 5 knots wind, and in real world, 6 knot wind. There's one difference, and so they tweak it and say, okay, maybe something is not right here. We did that for all the airplanes, and for the H125, I did not do the initial flight model. They went to, I don't know, they flew it. So they flew it in real life with the instruments. They flew it in a simulator quite a lot. And I just came in, because I did an autopilot pass on that one. And I went in to improve a little bit. So the stability at higher speeds was, and actually what happens is, I think that that helicopter must have some hingy flapping, and that was not perfect. And so the thing is, the system is a bit complicated, and we did never publish I would say a heavy helicopter, and so I had to go in. So I actually fixed the whole hingy thing, which basically what it does is when you go fly fast, you have this effect that one side has less lift than the other. It goes around with a phase lag, and it makes the helicopter like pretty much bloop. And so that was coming too soon. So there's a bit of a debate, because we discussed with the pilots. They say, yeah, it's pretty unstable, but it was a matter of 10 knots maybe. So I changed the hinge system. So let's say that helicopter, our chief design and flight model started it, and I just did a little bit of tweaks for the autopilot and that. And I did a bit of tweaks because the AI flies it. You know, in some of the missions when you start or during a cinematic, it's an AI flying. And so the AI uses the autopilot, and same thing, I had to go in little tweaks. So I really just did a few fixes on that one. I didn't do the main flight model on that one.
But did that eventually cause the appearance of a turbine template for developers? Because I have a lot of developers asking me about.
Yeah, so it has a turbine, and so we have another physics engineer who worked a lot on turbine, and there's also the transmission, and there's the what do you call it, the gas automatic.
Oh, the FADEC?
No, you can turn it off to control gas or leave it on. The governor.
Oh, the governor.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's the governor where they have 1 engine, 2 engine. So they did a whole. So that's we have another physics engineer who is much more specialized on turbines than me. So I did a lot of work on the clutch and the piston on the cabri.
Okay.
That I did, but the turbines, someone else took that over.
Okay. So we should be able to.
There should be a lot of stuff. Yeah, a lot of
That
stuff.
is great news, and you just
Yeah,
answered
I did
that.
all the work to be able to do 2 blade, you know, Chinook, or 2 like 2, 1 in front, 2 on the side, and you can do all sorts. You can do this. You can do all sorts of stuff.
Do we have VTOLs already, or not yet?
VTOLs.
Last time I asked you, you said that you would eventually come, but not right now.
I think they showed a few. I don't. What I don't know is, do they use a rotor or a propeller?
It's a VTOL, not an eVTOL. I'm talking about the V22, for example.
I don't. So the only thing I don't know is because we in the sim we have propellers and rotors,
Yeah.
and you could do I think one of these with the propeller system or the rotor system. That's the only thing I don't know. Probably it's propellers, but what I worked on is no. I worked on the rotors, being able to have like this. I tested this, and this.
Okay.
Well, these all work. But what they do with propellers, then I didn't look too much into that, so I can ask if you need.
Something that you touched that I was going to ask you was about Autopilot. So there's going to be an Autopilot system included for use, or is it for now it's just closed for you to be able to use?
So the thing is, so I developed the Autopilot for helicopters, but I didn't go into navigation, because you know nowadays they like Walking Title they do glass cockpits. All the nav is in there. And they sort of control the autopilot directly. And so I pushed, I did, you know, it can hold this, it can do this, it can hover, it can keep forward, it can turn, it can go up, it can do altitude controlled by collective and speed by pitch, or it can do speed by collective and altitude by pitch. I don't know if both are needed, but it can do both. You can pick. So it can do all sorts of stuff. And the AI uses this to control the helicopter. But I did not go up to do a navigation suite where it actually follows a track and stuff, but that should be easy for any glass cockpit maker. So I did this because, a lot of creators who want to do helicopters say, we don't have a helicopter autopilot. So that's now pretty much the same than the planes. I mean, there's a bit more stuff, right? But it's very similar.
That is cool. One of the last times that we, how much on the do we have? Sorry.
You have 3 minutes.
Oh God.
Speak faster.
One of the last times that we talked about the fact that we cannot start a helicopter on a parking position from either cold and dark or with the engines running. It's always cold and dark. You said that it should be in the same, but probably some kind of error or something like that. It's something that people keep on asking, for us to have the ability to start a helicopter.
Yeah. So I know the technology exists because I keep switching. Sometimes when I do a lot of tests with helicopters because they're, for example, the banners. I did everything with helicopters because they're much easier. When you miss something, you can just go back and try again. With an airplane, you have to do the whole. So it's easier, right? I do a lot of stuff, the crates. I do a lot of stuff with helicopters.
Airplanes suck, yes.
No, airplanes are awesome, but you cannot do all the manipulation of stuff with helicopters. Yeah, so I use them a lot, and I do a lot of tests on the parking with cold and dark or engine running. So both exist in the engine, but the thing is, how is it exposed to the user? That I think we need to just plug the button on the button. So probably it's working in the works. The tech is there, right? I use it all the time, and I usually prefer flying, I mean, not cold and dark, but having engine running and just go, right? When I want to test some physics somewhere, I don't need to do all the engine start. I mean, on the Cabri, it's okay. On the H125, it takes a long time to spin up, right?
Yeah.
So
So you want to go, you want to be ready.
Yeah.
Okay, you tease me the fact that it's the last question. You tease me, I have more questions that I eventually will be able to ask in the future. You teased me last time about the fact that we once talked about helipads with grids that lets the airflow go
oh
through
yeah,
them.
yeah.
And you said that we would talk about it later in the future.
Yeah, so what I know is we fixed, so there was people complaining about the CFD with the ground effect. You know, when you are like on a platform and you keep going here, it wasn't working that well, so that we fixed. It's easy for me to get a grid material and just ignore it.
Okay.
That's easy. So I will. What I'm gonna do is I'll make sure, because
Because I'm going to ask him again.
The only thing is,
I
I don't remember, because I take all the notes. But when did you ask this, in Vegas?
I asked you in Vegas, and we talked actually last year in Houston. It was the first time that we talked about it, and then in Vegas you said that we had talked about it previously. And,
I'll add it to my list.
Yeah.
I'm happy to say that on my wish list notes I take on these events, I was able to do quite a lot. So when I take notes, usually it's done after a few days. So yeah, it's not stuff which, because there's a lot of stuff when I take the notes. But yeah, CFD grids on, and because I saw these grids on the petrol platform and said it should not do as much. So is it half of it when there's half of the? Yeah, there has to be some of it still. It's lighter. It doesn't. Depends on the grid, right?
Yeah, it depends on the kind of grid. If it's a dense grid, there's a much lower percentage of air that goes through it.
Exactly. What I'll probably do is just cheat it by moving the ground lower, like 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, something like this.
For example, that would work. Technical.
Yes, that will work.
But it's no. But the thing is, no. But I did a lot of landing on platforms. The fact that the CFD changes, the ground effect changes, and also all the turbulence and the wind, it is something, right? It's really something to land on a platform, especially in high winds. So I think that's an important part.
Can I just say the particle effects looked cool earlier when the
the particle
how
effect.
that was like all dynamic.
I started smiling when you were showing the particle.
And currently we added, so that I'm happy about this video, and I really thought of you when I put it into the, because I said, oh, they're gonna like that. But we only got in the translation of the particle. They don't spin yet.
Oh.
But they will take the spin of the vortex, so it's gonna look even better, right? Right now it was okay. I was happy to have it, but the spin is gonna be a very important effect. Because some of the particles get big and then you see them doing this. No, they should do this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to come in.
It's
in the makes, but yeah, there's.
That is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, this literally was solved the day before I left. So I shot the video and whoosh.
And it's done.
Yeah.
Okay, Sebastian. We're going to pick up. Thank you very much.